Imagine the sky turning the color of rust. Imagine dust so thick it blocks out the sun, not just for an hour, but for days. This isn't a scene from a dystopian film. It is the increasingly frequent reality of the modern dust storm. In places across the American Southwest, Australia, and regions of Asia, these events are growing in scale, intensity, and lethality. The BBC article highlights a chilling new threat. Not only the immediate danger of visibility and collisions, but the slow, insidious spread of disease and toxic particles carried on the wind. We are facing a planetary paradox. The land we were commanded to care for is now striking back from the air. Welcome to QURANxINSIGHT, where we delve into today's global issues, connecting scientific understanding and ethical challenges with timeless principles of wisdom and logic. Today, we confront the deadly dust storms, the logical consequence of disturbing the Earth's delicate balance, and what ancient wisdom tells us about preparing for the wind's wrath. The science behind these superstorms is clear, and the data is alarming. Historically, dust events were natural phenomena, localized and seasonal, but recent global climate patterns have turned them into massive transcontinental hazards. The U.S., particularly the arid West, is experiencing a dangerous revival of conditions reminiscent of the 1930s Dust Bowl, often referred to as the Mega Dust Bowl. Global atmospheric monitoring confirms that the amount of airborne dust has significantly increased over the past several decades. This is not solely due to heat, but primarily due to desertification, the degradation of land in dry areas resulting from variations in climate and, critically, human activities. When soil is over-tilled, overgrazed, or stripped of its natural vegetation, it loses its structural integrity. It becomes fine, loose, and an easy meal for the wind. Geoscientists at NASA and NOAA track monumental dust plumes originating from places like the Sahara's Bodel Depression, which transports millions of tons of dust across the Atlantic every year, fertilizing the Amazon rainforest. But the dust we are concerned with is often closer to home, generated by unsustainable farming practices and drought. This dust carries a toxic cargo, not just soil particles, but industrial pollutants, heavy metals, microplastics, and disease-causing biological agents. We are literally inhaling the consequences of our industrial and agricultural decisions. The logical argument here is one of simple consequence. The physical disturbance of the land inevitably leads to the thermal and atmospheric disturbance of the air. The Quran frequently speaks of the wind, recognizing its dual nature as both a mercy and a warning. The wind brings rain, pollinates crops, and moves sailing vessels. It is a vital component of planetary life, operating under magnificent balance. Consider the description of the wind as a sign of divine power and order. And in the alternation of night and day, and in what Allah sends down from the sky of provision and gives life thereby to the earth after its lifelessness, and in the varying direction of the winds are signs for a people who reason. Al-Jathiyah 45.5. This verse compels us to use our reason to observe the patterns of nature, including the varying direction of the winds. When the wind changes from a gentle breeze of life to a choking torrent of dust, it is a clear sign that the established natural order has been disrupted by human hands. The shift in the wind's function, from bringing rahmah, mercy, to adhab, punishment, warning, is directly proportional to the lack of human stewardship. The core ethical failure that leads to these dust storms is the disruption of the land, an act described as fasad, corruption, or disorder. The human relationship with the earth is one of khalifa, or stewardship, not ownership or domination. To strip the land bare for short-term profit, ignoring the long-term ecological consequences, is to commit fasad. This idea is powerfully stated. Corruption has appeared throughout the land and sea by reason of what the hands of people have earned, so he may let them taste part of the consequence of what they have done, that perhaps they will return to righteousness. Our Room 3041. The corruption on land manifests today as soil erosion and desertification, leading to dust storms. The logical proof of this corruption is found in the statistics of global topsoil loss. Experts estimate that we lose billions of tons of topsoil every year. That topsoil doesn't simply vanish. It becomes airborne, forming the very core of these deadly dust storms. The economic drive for monoculture farming, which prioritizes a single crop and heavy chemical use, leaves the land vulnerable between seasons. The exposed, tilled earth is a non-negotiable invitation for the wind to carry it away, thus converting productive land into a hazard zone. This is where the scientific and ethical imperatives perfectly converge. Healing the land is the only sustainable way to purify the air. Now, let's focus on the deadly cargo, the diseases and pathogens that hitch a ride on these microscopic dust particles. The BBC article highlights illnesses like valley fever, coccidioidomycosis, caused by a fungus that lives in the soil and becomes aerosolized during dust events. This fungus, once airborne, can infect the lungs, causing flu-like symptoms and, in severe cases, life-threatening complications. Epidemiological data worldwide shows a correlation between major dust events and spikes in respiratory infections, meningitis, and other airborne diseases. Furthermore, industrial waste and heavy metals from mining sites or agricultural runoff are frequently bound to dust particles. When we breathe in the dust, we are exposing our most vital systems to complex, long-term toxins. This leads to the logical question of preparedness and foresight. A key concept in wisdom is planning for the future and taking necessary precautions based on observable facts, a concept often related to prudence and wisdom in decision-making. Being unprepared for deadly dust storms when the scientific evidence is overwhelming is a failure of logic and responsibility. Preparedness requires investment in long-term solutions, primarily regenerative agriculture. Regenerative farming practices, such as no-till planting, cover cropping, and crop rotation, are proven scientific methods to rebuild soil health. When soil is healthy, rich in organic matter, and covered by vegetation, the wind cannot easily pick it up. The soil is anchored by living roots and microbial life. Global initiatives focused on reforestation and land stabilization in desert-prone regions, such as the African Great Green Wall, are logical and necessary responses. These projects directly combat the source of the dust, stabilizing the ecosystem and fulfilling the mandate of stewardship. The economic logic of regenerative agriculture is also sound. While it may require a higher initial investment in time and knowledge, it drastically reduces long-term costs associated with synthetic fertilizers, irrigation, and, crucially, the costs of disaster relief and public health crises caused by dust. The World Health Organization estimates that diseases linked to airborne pollutants already cost global economies billions of dollars annually. Investing in soil health is, therefore, a strategic financial decision, not just an ethical one. The principle of seeking knowledge and applying logic to solve problems is central to wisdom. We are given the faculty of reason, AAQL, to understand the world and manage its resources efficiently. The fact that advanced scientific institutions like NASA and NOAA are now heavily involved in tracking dust movement confirms that this is a problem requiring the highest level of human intellect. We must use satellite imagery, atmospheric modeling, and meteorological data to develop robust early warning systems. Early warnings allow communities to take simple, effective precautions, such as sheltering indoors, using N95 masks, and protecting vulnerable populations. This proactive approach honors the necessity of preparedness and minimizes harm. The challenge is not technological, but one of collective will and personal change. We return to the fundamental wisdom that guides all behavioral change. It must start from within the community and the individual. The state of our environment is a direct reflection of our state of mind regarding resources. It is powerfully stated, "Indeed, a law does not change the condition of a people until they change what is in themselves." Arad 13:11. The condition of our land, eroded, dry, and prone to dust storms, is a consequence of prioritizing short-term gain over long-term stability. If farmers continue to use destructive tilling methods, and if governments continue to subsidize water-intensive crops in arid regions, the condition of the land will not change. The shift must happen in the conscience of the consumer, demanding sustainably sourced food, and in the policy of the government, incentivizing regenerative practices. For the individual, the change is about mindfulness, understanding that their purchasing choices contribute to or alleviate the strain on the land. If a cheap product relies on environmental destruction, the true cost is ultimately paid in the air we breathe. Furthermore, the concept of justice demands that we protect the most vulnerable from these airborne threats. Low-income communities, often situated near industrial farmlands or neglected urban areas, bear the brunt of air quality issues, including dust storms. Ensuring air quality and land stability is a matter of social equity, not just environmentalism. Every person has the right to breathe clean air, a right that is violated when the land is mismanaged. We must therefore advocate for local governance that enforces proper land management and establishes communal safety measures. The scientific community emphasizes that dust storms are not isolated events, but are deeply interconnected with the global climate system. Dust in the atmosphere can both heat and cool the planet, creating complex cascading effects on ocean temperatures and cloud formation. This complexity underscores the need for a holistic, integrated approach to planetary health, treating the land, the air, and the water as interconnected systems. The logic of system thinking dictates that solving the dust storm problem will simultaneously mitigate climate change and improve public health outcomes. The solutions are readily available and scientifically validated. They involve transitioning to drought-resistant crops, utilizing technologies like remote sensing to monitor soil moisture, and investing in localized water conservation techniques. Globally, there is a movement toward land restoration, recognizing that natural resilience is the best defense against environmental chaos. For instance, restoring native grasslands acts as a natural sponge and shield, locking the soil down with dense root systems. The wisdom of restoring the Earth's natural defenses is infinitely more stable than relying on technological filters to clean the air later. We have been granted the intelligence to observe, analyze, and correct our course. Our ancestors, particularly those in arid and semi-arid regions, mastered the art of living in harmony with the wind and the desert. Their architectural designs, their nomadic grazing patterns, and their agricultural water harvesting techniques were all built on observing the mizan, or balance, of nature. We must resurrect this intelligent, grounded approach, merging ancient respect for the land with modern ecological science. The challenge posed by deadly dust storms is a direct test of our stewardship. It asks whether we will continue the path of depletion and short-term reward, or pivot toward long-term preservation and ethical governance of the Earth's surface. The airborne disease, the choking dust, the blood rain phenomenon, these are all unmistakable warnings, signals transmitted across continents that imbalance cannot be maintained. The logic is irreversible. What we sow into the land, we inevitably reap in the air. The time for denial or political inaction has passed. The dust is literally at our doorstep, carrying pathogens and pollutants. We must act with the foresight and wisdom demanded of us. The path forward is clear: regenerative land use, robust preparedness, and a profound change in our collective attitude toward the Earth's resources. By healing the soil, we heal the air, and we restore the balance that is essential for life itself. This effort is the highest form of responsibility, grounded in knowledge, science, and enduring wisdom. This is our moment to prove ourselves worthy stewards of the world we inhabit. Let the wind once again be a sign of mercy, not a harbinger of disease. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to QURANxINSIGHT for more stories that connect today's world with timeless truth.